What if being smart is actually making it harder for you to let people in? Not because something is wrong with you, but because of how your mind is literally wired to process the world. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand something about yourself or someone you love that might just change everything. So let's set the stage first. Avoidant attachment is a pattern where a person becomes deeply uncomfortable with emotional closeness. They pull away when relationships get serious, they keep people at arm's length, and they often feel more at peace alone than they ever do in someone's arms. There are actually two flavors of this: the dismissive avoidant, who genuinely believes they do not need people, and the fearful avoidant, who desperately wants connection but is terrified of it at the same time. Both types struggle immensely in relationships, and both are incredibly common in people with high intelligence. And no, that is not a coincidence. Here is the first reason this happens. Highly intelligent people are relentless overthinkers, and overthinking is one of the fastest roads to emotional withdrawal. Think about what falling in love actually requires. You have to take a risk on someone. You have to feel something before you can prove it makes sense. You have to be a little bit irrational. But the intelligent mind does not do irrational well. When a highly intelligent person starts developing feelings for someone, they do not just go with it. They audit it. They run the data. They look for proof that this is a good decision. And while all of that analysis is happening, they are not letting the other person in. They are holding them at a careful, safe distance. From the outside, that looks like avoidance. From the inside, it feels like due diligence. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. That same overthinker who is studying every angle of a potential relationship is also building up something else quietly in the background, an incredibly high internal standard. Intelligent people demand a lot from themselves. They tend to set ambitious benchmarks in every area of their lives, and those same benchmarks get applied to potential partners, not in a cruel way, not consciously, half the time. But they develop a very clear picture of what they need from someone, and when reality does not match that picture, they do not settle. They step back. They go back to their own company, which, by the way, is often genuinely rich and fulfilling for them. And this is where the avoidant pattern deepens, because every time they withdraw rather than compromise, they reinforce the neural pathway that says alone is safer and easier. But let's go even deeper than that, because the independence piece is enormous here. Highly intelligent people often develop a profound sense of self-sufficiency early in life. They figure things out on their own. They entertain themselves, challenge themselves, grow themselves. They do not experience that desperate ache for someone else to complete them that a lot of people describe. And while this sounds like a strength, and in many ways it absolutely is, it also creates a massive barrier to vulnerability. When you have never really needed someone else to regulate your emotions or meet your needs, the experience of genuinely needing another person feels foreign and uncomfortable, and discomfort triggers avoidance. That is just basic psychology. Which leads to the third driver of this pattern, and this one is subtle but powerful. Intelligent people are exceptional at analyzing outcomes. They can see problems coming before anyone else does. They can map out the trajectory of a relationship and spot where things might go wrong long before they actually go wrong. Now imagine being wired that way and starting to care about someone. You can see the vulnerabilities. You can see the ways this person could hurt you. You can see how much you would lose if it fell apart. And so rather than take that risk, the intelligent mind sometimes chooses to protect itself by never fully investing. Keep things surface level. Maintain just enough distance to stay safe. This is the very definition of avoidant behavior, and it is being driven entirely by intelligence. Not trauma, not malice. Just a mind that is very, very good at predicting pain. Let's talk about emotional suppression for a moment, because this is a big one. People with avoidant attachment tendencies frequently report that they prefer processing things internally. They do not broadcast their vulnerabilities. They keep emotional conversations shallow. They would rather sit with discomfort alone than expose it to someone else. Now, think about how this maps onto the intelligent personality. Smart people often grew up being praised for being logical, rational, composed, being the one who figured it out rather than the one who fell apart. Over time, emotional expression can start to feel like weakness, like a signal that you are not as competent as everyone thinks you are. And so they learn to suppress it. That suppression becomes habitual, and suddenly you have someone who is warm and engaged on an intellectual level, but completely walls off when the conversation moves toward real emotional depth. Here is something most people do not talk about. Intelligent people can also become hypercritical, both of themselves and the people around them. When you have a sharp mind, you see flaws quickly and clearly. You notice inconsistencies. You catch contradictions. And while this is incredibly useful in a lot of situations, it can be genuinely toxic in relationships. Because no partner is going to be without flaws, and if your default mode is to catalog imperfections, you are going to find reasons to create distance from almost everyone. The avoidant attachment literature actually identifies this critical inner voice as one of the hallmarks of the dismissive avoidant type. The mind has been trained to look for what is wrong rather than what is right, and that bias makes emotional closeness feel even more threatening. Now, there is one more layer to all of this that ties it together. Close. Intelligent people are extraordinarily self-aware. They know their patterns. They can name their defense mechanisms. They can explain their avoidance to you in clinical detail while still doing nothing to change it. And that is one of the most fascinating paradoxes of the highly intelligent avoidant. Knowing why you do something and actually changing it are two completely different cognitive tasks. Understanding that you withdraw to protect yourself does not automatically dissolve the behavior. In fact, sometimes the ability to intellectualize the pattern gives people a way to justify staying in it. So what does all of this mean if you recognize yourself here? First, recognizing the pattern is genuinely the first step, not a cliché, an actual prerequisite for change. Second, understand that intelligence is not the enemy here. The same analytical mind that creates avoidant distance is also capable of building extraordinarily thoughtful, deliberate, deeply committed relationships once it learns to direct that energy toward connection instead of protection. The goal is not to become less intelligent. The goal is to let your intelligence serve your heart instead of guard against it. Because here is the truth. Being highly intelligent does not mean you are destined to be alone or to keep everyone at arm's length forever. It means you have more tools than most people to understand what is happening inside you and to consciously choose something different. That is not a weakness. That is actually a superpower. You just have to decide to use it. If this video described you, or someone you know, a little too accurately, drop it in the comments below. And if you want to go deeper on attachment styles and how they play out in real relationships, hit subscribe, because we cover this kind of psychology regularly. See you in the next one.